We're live now. Sorry for the delay. This is Jim Stewart with my co-host Mark Burnett. And let's see what we have for part. We have a bunch of participants. So again, sorry for the delay. We'll be recording this shortly. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, sure, Jim. Hi, everyone, and thanks for attending our first digital transformation episode for 2023. Last year, we had six awesome, amazing, insightful episodes. So we're definitely looking forward to this year, and we're happy to have the Keaton team, Rachel and Ruth, who will be championing a topic that is on most of our lips. So I mean, it's great to start 2023 with this episode. So my name is Mark, and I'm a project manager out of Kingston, Jamaica. I mostly operate in the Caribbean region.
And my name is Jim Stewart. I'm a project manager and agile coach working currently on an agile transformation for a pharmaceutical. I'm in the greater Boston area or the suburbs of Boston. Just as a housekeeping thing, we run 45 minutes to an hour. It will be recorded. It's being recorded now. And then we'll send a link out. It'll be up on our various LinkedIn pages and whatnot. There's also a chat. So if you want to introduce yourselves by chat, where you're coming from, feel free. I'm going to monitor the chat so that when Ruth is talking, I'll take those questions in. If something needs clarification, then we will do that. Maybe someone can mute there. I don't know what that is. We can clarify right then or save the questions for the very end. Most of the time, we'll do that. So I think we're good on that one. Do we? Let's see. Is there anything else here? Slides and recording be available later. We mentioned that we're being recorded. Questions will go into. I would say the chat is probably easier. And Ruth, you have your main slide you want to bring up, and I'll give you an introduction. So I've got a little bit more bio on Ruth. I'll try to make it a little bit more interesting than just reading it. Yes, the slide will be shared later. Thank you from Minneapolis. Ruth has 15 years of business expertise with 5+ years focused on the project management office, near and dear to mine and Mark's heart. That's what we're all about. Ruth understands what successful PMOs are doing today to bring value. Value is the big word these days, folks, for their businesses tomorrow through working closely with enterprise project management professionals looking to deliver that value outcomes their businesses need, the value outcomes. Her experience with high quality reporting outputs, project methodologies, and technology give her a unique view and stance in navigating executive support and buy in. So key to have that executive support and buy in. Otherwise, forget the PMO. She understands the role of the PMO for today's evolving businesses and jumps at the opportunity to help PMOs achieve their goals through data driven insights from powerful project portfolio management software. Ruth is from Keyed In. Her colleague here is Rachel. And Ruth, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you for that lovely introduction. So yeah, as Jim said, hi everyone. I am a previous PMO manager in my previous life. Now stepped across to Keyed In as a customer success manager to really ensure and enable value add for other PMO leaders and executives to within the use of technology in their portfolio management processes. So again, really great to meet you all. Thank you for joining us today. During today's session, we're going to be looking at the what and the why behind digital transformation, and also how you can position your own PMOs for success. I'll also share some of my experience and stories that I have within transformation, and then leave plenty of time for questions afterwards as well. So without further ado, let's dive in. So, the million-dollar question, what is digital transformation? Well, digital transformation can be many things to many people, and it will look different for every company. It can be really hard sometimes to pinpoint a definition that does apply to all, but we could articulate this as digital transformation is the integration of digital technology into all aspects of a business, fundamentally changing how you operate and deliver value to customers. It's also a cultural change that requires organisations to continually challenge that status quo, continually experiment, and also get comfortable with failure. Digital efforts or digitisation ensures companies catch up with technological innovation. COVID-19 massively accelerated the pace of this digitisation as many of our most basic activities, from grocery shopping to even going to work, moved online. However, this accelerated wave of digital initiatives mustn't be confused with the real business digital transformation, which is needed for success in the digital age. Two real distinct points there. Digitisation is mostly about enabling business as usual or staying in the game, whilst the digital transformation is about building real long-term competitive advantages for success to succeed. We could break this down into a few core activities. So adoption of technology. As part of a digital transformation, businesses will digitise non-digital products, services or operations, and they'll utilise the best, most appropriate technology as part of the core. Organisations will go through the exercise and the process of modifying existing business processes, landscapes, cultures, and also customer experiences. You'd go through the process of using digital technologies to create new ways of working throughout your organisation, not specifically in one area. Digital transformation allows you to meet changing business and market requirements. So, as we've mentioned before, supporting that more online way of life. And increasing productivity and improved efficiencies is definitely an outcome of digital transformation, most commonly linked with automation of process. And ultimately, the goal is to increase the value driven through innovation, through invention, and better customer experience. I think we can all agree that digital transformation portfolios and programs are often large scale and generally enterprise-wide. And as PMO leaders, we're required to have the agility and the flex to ensure that we're supporting the transformation in the best way. As part of the 2023 PMO Outlook report, Keedin actually identified the PMO pivot. And as PMOs strive to define their role in becoming a value driver for organisations, it becomes apparent that the alignment across the organisation must be top of mind. And this is really crucial when supporting a digital transformation. So we've touched on the what, had a look at that. What are the key factors as opposed to what a digital transformation is? Now let's take a look at the why. And this is a really chunky topic. A business might take on a digital transformation for several reasons, but by far the most likely reason is that they have to, that it's a survival issue. In the wake of the pandemic and the enhancements to our current digital age, an organisation's ability to adapt quickly to rapidly changing customer expectations, it's become really critical that happens. The fact is that adopting businesses to new technological advances is essential for solid long-term future stability. It's also recognised that undergoing a digital transformation is the best way to empower the different parts of an organisation or a company, improving the efficiency of a company and helping it to reduce costs and offer greater value to its customers. Adopting a more digital presence has also helped a number of businesses maintain consistency amongst teams and has allowed work to improve with greater flexibility. Of late, many organisations have also fast-tracked their digital transformation programmes with the need for a more agile and scalable IT environment, bringing their roadmaps to the current rather than in a few years' time. Other factors, let's have a look at those. So other things that drive the why behind a digital transformation. Well, everybody expects an on-demand service. In a world that's increasingly digital, customers expect companies to adopt the very best online and digital solutions to remain efficient and competitive. If it's too difficult to engage with an online business, there are always a number of competitors waiting in the wings with the potential to offer users a much easier access to their own services. Another thing to consider is employees need modern tools to be effective. The term new normal was thrown around so much during the pandemic and over the years that have followed, but there's no denying that working from home has now superseded that traditional work model that we've all come to know. And it has become standard for a number of employees. Productive tools for working from home now needs to be provided by employers, as an effective digital transformation is vital for maintaining employee engagement. Digital transformations provide the opportunity for core business functions such as finance or HR to look at their processes and potentially look at a way of better automating key areas such as payroll, for example. The time saved by installing proper automation can really enable leaders as well to focus on those wider business opportunities. Another point is security. Security is top of business priority, data security. Companies must enforce really rigorous protocols around data compliance and access, as the cyber threat to organisations is higher than it's ever been with the digital transformation and the digitisation, growing at such a rapid rate. Strengthening business partnerships. So managing the partners previously has often required quite document-heavy, document-based communication, a process traditionally viewed as quite exhausting maybe, or an obstacle to efficiency. But technology now is so advanced and readily available that can really redesign any process that you have, linking and strengthening those partnerships. Also, the ability to make better decisions faster. Placing data and analytics at the centre of your digital transformation will allow businesses to take advantage of stronger, more accurate data. With the right technological tools in place, this data can be converted into valuable business insights that can be used then to make more informed, quicker decisions. The deeper the analytical tools are embedded into your business processes and operations, the greater the integration and effect that they could have. PMO leaders have seen that the technology strategies now need to be woven throughout the organisations, in all corners, to ensure that they're providing higher employee innovation and satisfaction, greater data insights, and improved collaboration. Again, findings from the Keyed-in PMO Outlook report this year saw that the top response for business initiatives was digital transformation, coming in at 37%, confirming that it's a key focus for many. So let me pause there for a second and let's ask you guys a question. Shortly you'll see a poll pop up. Thank you, Rachel. And let's understand from the audience perspective, how many of you are currently going through a digital transformation? You should be able to use the poll to vote there.
There's a poll button you'll see, I think it went red a little bit, and you can click on it. Very nice, fancy. Oh, shows right where it is.
How are we getting on with the poll?
It looks like we're pretty static at this point.
Yeah, okay.
62% yes, 20% no. We will be 16%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Numbers.
Okie dokie. So that's really interesting, as we've said. A lot of you are experiencing digital transformation already, or potentially will be. So having delved into the what and touched on the why, now let's have a look at how we can position PMOs for success. As you can see, the PMO leader quotes that PMOs must link the PMO objective to the digital transformation. You need to understand a critical aspect of your PMO within that digital transformation and utilise this to steer you forward. But the big question is how? Well, As leading PMOs, we must explore ways to reduce the amount of time and effort spent on operational and governance activities. To adapt to the business, PMOs need to utilise process automation and reduce the burden of the more admin-heavy project management activities such as detailed reporting and governance steps. However, PMOs are facing significant pressure to transform themselves as well as support transformation. The traditional project, programme, portfolio management processes that have been previously created and overseen by PMO have been designed for predictability and consistency, not necessarily for the speed and flexibility that we need now to meet the requirements for a digital transformation demand. PMO leaders will need to capitalise on their unique advantage here and proactively shift and pivot their focus away from that heavy governance and detailed delivery support to the more strategic, more strategy-lined and management activities that promote the enterprise's digital efforts. Traditionally, as we've heard and probably experienced ourselves, I know I have, our frameworks entailed extensive reporting standards and excessive processes that earned PMO its unfavourable nickname of the project police. I know we were called that. Traditionally, PMOs have become well known for bureaucratic practices and excessive documentation, which not only adds unnecessary work, but also makes new change implementation potentially slow and arduous. As a strategic arm and backbone of an organisation, the PMO plays a critical role in achieving an organisation's strategic goals. And by ensuring that you're using the right tools, the right processes, the right cultures, and ensuring that they're all in place to produce suitable conditions, you will be able to meet and support the requirements for project success. So what can you do to help both your PMO and organisation succeed? Well, no one really takes to change easily, especially if your organisation doesn't have that pre-existing culture that's accustomed to change and growth. One of the most critical elements of successful digital transformation is gaining buy-in from stakeholders. They need to know why the change is important, how it can benefit the organisation, and most importantly, how it can benefit them specifically. You as a PMO need to take them on the journey. By making the benefits of the change personal, the teams are more likely to want to invest in the digital transformation. Additionally, making sure that people know that their opinions are heard and have influence also plays a critical role in building that buy-in. PMOs can introduce a clear feedback system that allows and makes sure that all relevant feedback is easily provided, evaluated, and then actioned on. Another thing we can do is management needs to make sure that their digital transformation strategy aligns with the organisational overarching strategy. For example, there's no use investing in the most high-end, up-to-date software when your organisation is trying to cut costs and only requires basic tools to support the process. PMOs need to understand that strategic value of the digital technology investments and be able to quantify, justify, and execute plans accordingly. They have the power and the data to ensure that they're providing the most valuable mix of projects or portfolio to the organisation for them to make a decision. Digital transformation programmes are often large scale, as we've heard, and enterprise-wide, and require continual support at that higher level and higher level insight to inform progress and evaluate that success. With the help of an effective portfolio management solution, PMOs can create and easily provide support for delivery teams utilising that core technology, whilst also gathering data to help evaluate how effective and efficient the new processes are. One thing to always remember is that data doesn't have emotion, but it does have power. Providing support and insight using your data not only helps ease the digital technology adoption, but also gives that greater evidence to the success of your initiatives, and that can act as a justification for future digital transformation investments. Introducing new technology often involves including new teams and building new skills to make sure that the adoption process is as smooth as possible. As the central hub of truth, PMOs are able to see that big picture impact of the transformation, manage potential bottlenecks or pressure points, and optimize the ongoing processes to make sure that the transformation is successful. Managing these involves making sure that all the necessary resources, the skills, the feedback systems, and the data collection points and practices are all in place and calling out early enough when there could be bumps in the road. And then PMOs can help increase employee engagement and investment and buy-in into new tools by demonstrating to employees just how exciting and useful new tools and new technology can be. From providing interactive demonstrations to hosting learning sessions, PMOs have that critical role of getting people excited about the digital initiative and the transformation as a whole, giving them all the necessary resources they need to effectively use and implement the new digital tools and processes, encouraging greater use of all. When most people use the tools, there is more data as well to properly evaluate the digital initiative's overall success. Some ways to encourage greater use of tools could be through highlighting successes made in the digital initiatives within the teams throughout the organisation. If people can see how the initiative is benefiting others, then they're more likely to be inclined to try and make it work for themselves as well. Half of the battle's done for you then.
Ruth,
Yes, hi.
would be a good time to ask a question here. I'll go against what I said about waiting till later, but I think it was a timely question. And the question was, can you speak more about who then should be establishing the governance, if not the PMO? Because they're going strategic. Isn't governance important to that strategy? Does that make sense to you? Did you get to the
Yeah,
gist?
no, absolutely. And so within that, my feeling is that governance is important. It's creating the right governance framework for this strategic change, for the digital change. So I'm not suggesting at all that you shouldn't have any governance. There should always be those trigger points and framework that guide the transformation that you're working within. So it's almost like a bowling alley. And the PMO would set out the alley and put the bumpers up. And then the flex within that framework allows the ball or the delivery, the initiative, to bounce from stage to stage or through the bumpers until they've eventually hit their strike and successfully delivered. So yeah, no, absolutely. I think alignment within that new framework definitely needs to be agreed within the leadership, your key stakeholders, to ensure that you're covering all the key points that they need from a leadership perspective, but certainly also the things that you need as a PMO to maintain and capture that data. So for example, for us, we had a stage gate process previously that had 5 stage gates in. As part of our digital transformation, we scaled that down to three core things that we knew we needed to capture. And within that, we then allowed the autonomy within the delivery teams to get to those stage gates in the best way that they found possible.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that response, Ruth. Well said. In addition to, I mean, the conversation, I just want to ask, because I think this is a very good question and it's a very good response. So, most of the I would say like the enterprises, like businesses that really need to champion digital transformation with PMO value delivery, I would say are like small, like medium type, enterprises who a lot of times, you know, they are doing business. Maybe they don't have a strategy. Sometimes they have something like a strategy, but it is not stable. But they know that they need to pivot or they know that they need to scale, you know.
Yes.
And so what would be your advice in terms of, say, if these kind of enterprises, businesses, they want to go this route, how do you think they should approach it I mean, what would you say is the first step? I know you speak about strategy, but
Yeah,
it's easier said than done. I mean,
yeah.
what would you suggest?
So from a PMO linking into strategy that is quite susceptible to change, Mark, is that what you mean?
Yes. So yeah, in
Okay.
terms of like going digital transformation with a PMO value delivery mindset.
So I think change is inevitable, right? In all aspects of PMO. I think PMO are the most well equipped to cope with change. That's a really British term. But I think when you're dealing with changing strategy at the highest level, I think you've just got to remain and have that core consistency that allows you to pivot, as we've talked about previously. So creating the core boundaries, I guess, for your organization to be able to report out on. You also need to remember that PMO, it's they don't own the data. They own the reporting of the data and the translation of the data and the sharing of the data and driving messages. They're almost like a conduit between the strategy and the delivery teams and then throughout the organization. So the ownership and accountability needs to be shared, and it's that sort of message that PMO can articulate to organizations to make them all come together and join up. um, from a framework perspective, again, I think it's just about open communication, talking to your leaders about what they need ultimately to achieve the organizational strategy. Because as I've said previously, your organizational strategy needs to be aligned with your digital transformation. There's no point trying to transform digitally if it doesn't align with where the business is going. So that, and that's not something PMO can control. They can support and influence, but not necessarily control. So it's also, being able to adapt to situations like that as well. I don't think I answered your question very well there, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, you have root, you have, because a lot of times what I've seen is like these kind of enterprises, I mean, they generally think a PMO is just about a tool or a software, you know
Yeah,
um they don't think about it as soft skills are a part of building a PMO too, or championing digital transformation via a PMO value delivery mindset. Do your
yeah.
strategy, open communication, that kind of thing, that collaboration. So I think you have answered the question, because especially in these environment where it's not so mature, I think you have to start at this point first, and
Hmm.
then you can always add your systems around that. So I think you've answered the question.
And we have a raised hand here. Is this a good time? Are you still on track with your presentation, Ruth, or can we take another question?
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy.
Okay, Greg, you can speak if you want, or just chat something.
Can anybody hear me?
You're very low.
You're very low, Greg.
How about now? Is this any better?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm gonna yell. I don't mean to yell. Sorry. I'm loving this stuff. So thank you for all doing this. A question I've been using and pioneering the use of ethnographic research and ethnography in general to assess and help with cultural transformation in the medical device industry. I actually started using it to integrate in with the digital health, digital therapeutic stuff that's going on. Do you have any experience, knowledge, ideas, or suggestions about methodologies such as ethnographic research to help with the cultural transformation of digital transformation?
Oh, great question, Greg. honest answer is no, I haven't had experience on there. But I guess if I translate that into something that I could potentially use as an experience, you're getting some core data and analytics from using a system, a tool, an analytic device. And being able to leverage that within cultural change again goes back to that taking people on a journey, showing them with data that doesn't have emotion, but then applying that to the human element of the culture change and taking them on the journey to why things need to change, why it impacts them, how they can have a positive impact on the change using that core analytical data, and bringing that back into the technology, how it's going to benefit them to move forward step by step, and just embrace that. One thing that I did utilise in my PMO life was the image of small building blocks. You know, it's much easier to create little cubes of growth and continually grow and do those smaller steps up rather than trying to high jump 6 meters in one go. And I think sometimes technology and data can give you that those small building blocks to achieve success. But sorry, I haven't had experience in that particular area. Sorry.
That's okay. I found that very few people in program management, whether they have an official PMP or a pseudo PMP or just doing PMO work in general from strategy perspective, don't know the basics of cultural change and cultural transformation that we learn in organizational development and organizational transformational field. So I end up being a bit of a pariah because it's not trained as part of the typical program management work, and it really should be, because if you don't have a basis of culture and you're just running off of what Pinbox says or what other consultants have been using, it's not bad, and you can still get results, but you don't get anywhere near the kind of transformative effects and benefits at the end when you use the traditional tools used in transformation and growth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's a great point as well, Greg, because it's what we were saying earlier, that the soft side, and you mentioned the cultural transformation. I mean, it's not possible to build anything without the appropriate culture within that environment, and it doesn't really matter the industry that you're in. I mean, culture is very important, and Ruth spoke about even the open communication as well to build that culture.
Agreed. I don't want to take more time. I have so much more to say, but I don't want to derail your talk. You're doing wonderful stuff here.
Yes, you're welcome, man.
Go ahead, Ruth. And I have a question, but I'll hold it. Let you do more of your presentation, and I think we can take that one a little bit later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. Brilliant conversation though. Fantastic, guys. Thank you. I think as well, if PMOs are truly to be those strategic drivers of an organisation, their roles got to evolve around and out of that traditional confines of the standard enforcer role or the project police that we've spoken about before, and fully step into that strategic role by pioneering change and leveraging opportunities that arise in that digital space. And I think as part of that is that PMO have got to be on the forefront, but being at the forefront then also means that the PMO need to be consistently evaluating new opportunities and introducing potential new strategies that will enable the organisation. So it's more about the enabling strategies rather than the organisational strategies, but the two are really aligned. And the unique position of a PMO is that they have that ability and that insight into the available technologies as part of the transformation that they can then leverage. But as we've touched on, change never comes easy. Many organisations have those deep-rooted cultures and practices that make transformation to fully digital or fully digitally optimised environments really challenging. But I think one of the key things is don't be frightened to suggest something new, to challenge that status quo and improve that cultural practice that you have. We talk about data a lot, and as PMO, it's really crucial to our role. And I think data is key. Having key, consistent data really does allow you to remove any emotion out of action taking and decision making. Transparency creates that trusted advisor role. And I think when you report the good, the bad, warts and all, you are really driving forward trust. Leadership that they see that you're not hiding anything. You truly are giving them the big picture, the full data picture, and they're able to review and act upon it. And it also supports that data journey that you've taken your delivery teams and user groups on. I think the roadmap as well. The roadmap's a great resource that PMOs can use to visualize progress and also demonstrate what's next. It can be shared at multiple levels as well. So don't think just up the way when you're using it in your strategic meetings or steercos or strategy meetings. Think user groups as well. Articulate the process that's being followed and the what's next. I think another thing that we don't do enough of is celebrate the successes, regardless of the size of the success. We focus rightly so on what's not going so right, and we do that because action's needed and it's required. But I think the balance to that is really publishing when things have gone well, when change has been delivered. And it reminds people that their work is valued, that no matter the size of the success, it all adds to the overall success of the organisation and the transformation that you're all in. So I think that's a really key thing that we do sometimes forget. And then PMO are enablers as well. And we've talked about this previously, but we need to be continually supporting and reminding people of the why behind the digital transformation and adoption. And all the aforementioned points all support that driving, that enablement, of the transformation. And just on that, within the PMO Outlook report that Keedin ran this year, we did see that there was a disconnect between the strategic success metrics used to support business goals and the organisation set there, and then the success metrics used to measure against a PMO. So by eliminating that divide and aligning correctly, you can really set your PMO up for success, becoming a centre of excellence and delivering on what the business needs and having the ability to pivot when those change requests or the need to change comes in. So yeah, that was a really interesting point that we found in the PMO Outlook report as well. So we've covered the what, the why, and the how. Just before I go on to my experience, sharing, just a really short experience of my own transformation. Jim, Mark, was there any other questions that you feel would be relevant to ask now?
Well, there's a question here about when involving Agile. Would you like to hear that and try to address it?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so should the PMO be aligned with top and bottom, specifically with Agile teams across organization? What about change management in the PMO? Align its overall leadership. How you make your PMO Agile within any of the scaled Agile frameworks?
So that's a really great question. So that touches and feeds beautifully into my own experience. So Agile, I find, is a term that is bandied around by senior leadership without truly understanding Agile as a working practice. I think also organisations need to understand the difference between Agile, capital A, and agility, little a. Having agility and the flexibility to change, move, flex, and pivot is very different to Agile delivery. To answer the question from a top and bottom perspective, you definitely need to align or create an alignment between both. PMO is the conduit, as we've said, between the two. And if you don't deliver the top level strategy, then you're not going to be successful in your transformation. I think one of the key things that I found in my own experience was decoupling the need to know how you're delivering and just allow leadership to understand that you are delivering. That was definitely a key thing for me. And then as a PMO, it's about creating enough flex and being almost a linguist to be able to translate different delivery terms into one common language. And that doesn't come easy. We had to put a lot of work into that in my own PMO experience and life. but it is possible. And I think that it is then key to be able to have that bottom up engagement and reporting and visibility and transparency to ensure that top down you can see that how that feeds into the core strategy and the core transformation goals that you have. Does that sort of answer the question?
The follow-on is, as an Agile PMO, what will be the value on the overall enterprise business agility?
Well, it's data, isn't it? So not data, it's supporting the strategy. So if you're an Agile PMO and you're delivering and have scaled Agile delivery methods to support your product changes and your ongoing changes within your organization, it's the ability to meet the requirements of leadership, but also the delivery teams within that, to ensure that you're exposing the right data sets to the right people at the right time. So you're still able to leverage the right lens of exposure when required. One of my success stories, actually, just a slide on in my presentation, we'll come to it, is that we do have a customer that I'm working with in my customer success role that has moved from traditional PMO to that APO role, that Agile Portfolio Office. And it's not been the easiest of rides for that particular customer of mine. However, they have managed to do that. And a lot of that is actually a pivot on the type of data sets that they're reporting on. So from an APO perspective now, they're reporting a lot on team structure and financial treatment of their data. So what teams cost rather than what work costs, how much they can capitalize on versus the type of work they used to capitalize on. And that progress is now measured in points and velocity. You know, how far through the higher level features and epics are they compared to maybe a delivery roadmap? So it is possible. It's just making sure that you've matched your lens to the teams and the data set that's required to report up the way.
And just to give you a time check, Ruth, we have like 15 minutes
Yep.
left.
Only 2 slides, I think, Jim.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I see we have some great discussions in the chat window. Jim, you want to have a look at them?
Oh, well, I've been answering them, but there's only one outstanding question. I want to let Ruth finish her slides, and then I'll read the last one that I have open. There's only one open.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. So just to share a bit of my own experience, I know I've talked about this already a little bit with you, but we had definitely in my organisation my subtitle there, Architectural Spaghetti to a Smarter Single Stack. That was the core objective. And I'm pretty sure that my story will probably resonate with many of you when I say that over time, companies that they once approached technology with the mindset, we can build what we could buy. And actually, having done that for many years, they've now come to realise that over-engineered, over-customised in-house technology is no longer fit for purpose. And that's certainly where we found ourselves. In the main, we had a lack of ability to scale. We couldn't adapt to the ever-changing digital advances from the homegrown inbuilt technology. And it created this distinct need to strategically simplify. So that's where our strategy was. I'll be completely honest with you. The digital transformation had been kicked off several times previously and had experienced many false starts. And the main contributing factor to that core strategy was the core strategy that sat behind the transformation. Previously, in all the false starts, the organisation hadn't aligned completely, and the digital strategy was completely siloed in its own entity. It didn't have the full organisational buy-in. Fortunately, leaders acknowledged this, and with the right people in the room, for many hours they came together and they agreed and articulated and aligned a true organizational strategy, which included this digital transformation that we found ourselves in. It was simple, but it was powerful, and everyone was bought in. And I think that's where the power came from, that everybody from a leadership perspective was bought into it. And they really bought into the future that it would bring our organization. The key points from our leadership was put my teeth in. The key point that our leadership realised was that success would only come from 3 key points: people, process, and then technology. Just by changing the technology, it wouldn't work. We had to take our people on the journey, and we had to change our people to become future proof, if that makes sense. So upskill them, make sure they had the right skills to support the technology that we were looking to implement. And then we also needed to make sure that our processes were robust enough to be able to support this new landscape. So that was the people, the process, and the technology, the 3 legs to our stool. Then again, as a PMO manager, I had to ensure that our PMO team understood those core objectives and how they flowed into our own remit. We'd already started to create the flex in our framework, which I've touched on earlier in our conversation. And we had to make sure that we could incorporate traditional delivery, agile delivery, and then a hybrid delivery model, which incorporated a bit of both. And the core focus for us was ensuring that the data was of quality and that it was consistent and that it was transparent. Those were the 3 things that we made sure that we focused on. We were fortunate enough to have Keyed as our portfolio management tool. So we did have one single source of the truth. And we were also really fortunate enough to have a strong sponsorship that our leadership drove everybody into that system as well. As I've talked about, sorry, carry on, sorry.
I don't know if we're done with that slide. I did have a question I want to squeeze in. It's the one that you know is going to come up. What are some, if this is the wrong place, finish your other slide and you can answer it afterwards. What are some sample and example KPIs for the PMO working in agile-based digital transformation?
Oh, great question.
Good one, huh?
Yeah, definitely. So
you know that's going to come up.
So I guess it's again really tricky, because as we've talked about, it's about aligning your KPIs to your strategy, your organizational measures, because having misalignment genuinely doesn't allow you to show your own progress. So if you're basing your PMO KPIs on what you think is valuable, you have to make sure that that is aligned with the organizational strategy. And I have to say that was one of the key findings from the PMO report that we ran for 2023. The disconnect between how PMO measure themselves against what the organization measures as success are poles apart. So it's really finding that combination of what is the right KPI. So it's delivering on organizational strategy, cultural change, technological simplification, if that's a key one. It's moving away from on time, on budget, in scope, of quality. It's moving away from that and into that more the value that you are delivering. How satisfied are your customers? How satisfied are your employees? How effective is your technology? Have you reduced by X amount, as you said? Are you increasing velocity within your teams? It's those sort of measures that you need to think about and align with your organizational strategy first, moving away from the core traditional ones.
And this was a question that came through. You can either finish your slides and answer this question if you like, whichever order you want to do. About 9 minutes left.
Okay. I think, so we've talked about the framework that I experienced. I think as well, just one key point, Jim, I'll just finish the slides and then we'll go to the questions just to make sure we've got enough time.
Gotcha.
I also had to adjust some of the reporting meetings that we had. So we as a PMO also created agility within those meetings and streamlined to make sure that they were as effective as possible. Our steering committee was driven by core data points and consistent, transparent data. People were able to take accountability of their delivery objectives and owned the progress being made by that. I think that was key. PMO were the gatekeepers of the information, not the owners of it. So I think that was really key. It didn't always go smoothly. There were always bumps in the road, as we experience as PMOs. But we did make sure that we maintained data quality, exposed things early enough, and made sure that the right people were able to act upon this to be able to transform those risks or bumps in the road into positives or unblock them. Next slide is about the transform or that PMO pivot that we've talked about. So again, I've already articulated this sort of a high level. So we've got a leading global retailer, as I've said, that I support. They're currently making that transition or the digital transformation journey. They are now a full agile portfolio office as part of their digital transformation, and they are fully embodying that transformation. They have aligned to their strategic goals, which are specific to the organisation, not specific to their new APO. And they've also had to look at restructuring their hierarchy. So not just their internal resource hierarchy, their people hierarchy, but also their portfolio hierarchy to make sure that it's now linked to value streams. The data flow has had to be readjusted. They have restructured delivery teams as well to be able to align better with how the work is being, or the key initiatives are being delivered, and also aligning external or other technologies to find that balance of streamlining and utilising the most productive technologies that they've got available. So again, action plans for digital transformation. So what can you do to be ready? I think firstly, understand your key success objectives for the digital transformation. Align your PMO to the key success metrics. We've talked a lot about that. Ensure that you're reporting consistently and transparency, being prepared to pivot and flex and consistently communicate up, down and laterally. I think that's one thing with PMO, you cannot talk enough there. And continually review and iterate. Don't forget about continuous improvement. Many small successful steps are often easier to achieve than one huge leap. We've talked about there. And then again, in summary, make sure that you've set your success, your strategy, put my teeth in, set your strategic measures to ensure alignment for success. So again, going back to that point of aligning with your leadership and your objectives from an organisational perspective. Don't ever forget about your data. It's key. Ensure that quality and consistency is always maintained. Keep that trusted advisor role and allow for honest and open communication. And don't see pivot and flex as a negative. See it as evolution as part of your digital transformation.
So we only have a few minutes left. Let me bring this question up, and you can let us know if there's a way to, whether you can contact Ruth if we don't get to your question. We're trying. So there's one for you, Ruth.
I'm sure everyone's going to start.
Can you see it?
Yeah, the false start.
Yeah.
What was different this time? I'm sure in the past everyone was also agreed in concept but failed to commit. I think the difference for us in this one is that I didn't let them forget the alignment that they'd already created within that strategy. And I think I probably annoyed people. I was probably like a little annoying wasp buzzing around their ears, but I was continually articulating the why behind the change and reminding them, the leadership team, as well as our delivery teams, of why we were doing this. And it wasn't heavy. It was just a simple slide with our strategy on. And I made sure it was continually visible as well. Not saying it was just me, but it reminded the leadership team of why we were making the change and why we couldn't fail, basically.
Okay. Uh, what else? If that answers that one, I mean, I want to make sure I get these in the order. There's maybe one or two left. What is our opinion or examples of using roadmaps and technology roadmaps for digital transformation? And what are the differences in the product versus technology roadmaps? That may be a lengthy answer. I don't know.
Yeah. So for me, I think when you're reporting a strategic digital transformation, high level roadmaps add a lot of value. It keeps you honest and the teams honest as to what they committed to deliver, and how they are progressing against that delivery, and also understanding the what's next, as we touched upon. The product roadmaps, I found that I was able to leverage them as feeding into the overall strategy. So it was almost like a two-tier roadmap, and we'd break this down in the product meetings to allow the product teams the forum and the voice that they needed to be able to articulate their own hurdles or successes that they also delivered. We were able to sort of do a translation with regards to strategic objective versus product roadmap by agreeing that key story points or features fed into a key deliverable. And that was an agreement that we had internally between our agile teams and the strategy, to say, well, we still need to report on progress. How can we best leverage that? And it was just about that collaboration within the teams to be able to bring both roadmaps together.
We're just about out of time. This is the last one. Or you could try it, give it a try, or oh, that's not the one. Somehow the one that I tried to put up there just got written over. Let me try it again. OKRs?
Yeah, so based on agile mindset, it's very often to growth mindset needed in organization. How does the agile PMO, how does oh, great question, Desiree. Well done. That might be one that I need to answer offline, actually. I don't think that's a very short answer, Jim, but I'd be more than happy to answer publicly, obviously, so everybody can see that.
So you're saying maybe the person should contact you, or how do you want to deal with that one?
Yeah, if Desiree is happy to do so, yeah, or I can actually scribe an answer, and we can share it as part of the presentation. I can just
Yeah, that would be great
if you like. Yeah, if you're happy for me to do that.
Yeah, I think the question is coming from Desiree, right? Yeah. So it's also okay for Desiree to reach out to you as well, right?
Of course
Ruth,
it is.
in the
Yeah.
email.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I just thought for the rest of the group, if they also wanted to hear the answer or my response, I could drop it into this question slide for them if that would add value.
Put it in your presentation. That will be. I just mentioned we're wrapping up, but we're right just about on time. I guess that's it, Mark. Do you want to wrap up or?
Yes. Yeah. Wow. What should I say? I mean, the room was on fire. The room was on fire. It's such a great presentation, Ruth, Rachel, and the Keaton team. Thank you so much, guys. We deeply appreciate this. And we've learned so much about just championing digital transformation with PMO value delivery through agility, using the agile approaches, and also being adaptive too, because sometimes you have to adapt before you become agile. So I mean, thank you so much, guys, for such an amazing conversation. And thank you so much to the audience as well for asking those provoking questions that definitely stimulated the conversation that we had. So thanks again to you all. We really appreciate it, and we do look forward to having Rachel, Ruth, and the Keaton team back when you guys are ready.
And we'll get that video out as soon as we can. And Rachel and Ruth, if you want to stick around for a minute at the end, we'll just wrap up with you. But I think they have the processes that the PMO leader in the video. Mark, and it'll be on YouTube. And then
Yes.
Mark and I will put it on our various LinkedIn sites and versus social media if you want to share it with others. So thanks again.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you ever so
And
much. Great.
And I was also impressed with the turnout as well, Jim.
Yeah, we had a good number of people.
Yeah, the registrations and the turnout. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Mark, is it possible for us to go backstage again, or are we there? Oh.